Three conspiracy theorists break into Area 51 to uncover evidence of extraterrestrials. They discover the truth, but at a great cost. Haunted by their experience, they become activists fighting against government cover-ups and hidden agendas. Their journey has become a quest for truth and justice in a world that desperately needs it.
It was a dark and stormy night, and the three conspiracy theorists, Jack, Rachel, and Sam, were sitting in Jack's basement, huddled around his computer, trying to find any evidence they could about extraterrestrial life. They had been researching for months, poring over documents, government websites, and conspiracy theory forums, trying to piece together any clues about what the government might be hiding. It was then that Jack stumbled upon a particularly intriguing website. It claimed to have insider information about a secret military base in Nevada called Area 51, where the government was allegedly keeping evidence of extraterrestrial life. Jack couldn't believe his luck. This was it, the smoking gun he had been searching for. He quickly called Rachel and Sam and shared the news. Excitement filled the air as the three of them started brainstorming about how they could infiltrate the base and uncover the truth. Jack suggested they use the cover of night to sneak in undetected, but Rachel countered that they would need more than just stealth to get past the heavily guarded gates. Sam suggested they dress up as maintenance workers, but Jack pointed out that they would need security clearance to get anywhere near the evidence room. For hours, they debated and argued, trying to come up with a foolproof plan. They knew that breaking into a top-secret military base was no easy feat, but they were determined to uncover the truth. As the night wore on, they finally settled on a plan. They would wait until the annual maintenance crew changeover, when a new team of workers would be arriving at the base. They would then create fake credentials and pose as part of the new team, gaining access to the base without raising any suspicions. Once inside, they would split up and search for any evidence of extraterrestrial life. The plan was risky, but they were convinced that it was their best chance of uncovering the truth about what the government was hiding. They spent the next few weeks preparing, creating fake credentials, and practicing their cover stories. The night of the mission arrived, and the three of them set out for Nevada. They were nervous, but also excited. This was the moment they had been waiting for. They arrived at the base just before dawn, and as they drove up to the gates, their hearts were pounding in their chests. As they approached the gate, the guard asked for their credentials. Jack handed them over, and after a brief pause, the guard waved them through. The plan was working. They had made it inside Area 51. The trio of conspiracy theorists made their way through the base, trying their best to blend in with the other maintenance workers. They knew that any suspicious behavior could draw unwanted attention and potentially get them caught. As they moved through the base, they were struck by how quiet it was. The only sounds were the hum of machinery and the occasional distant footsteps. They felt like they were walking through a ghost town, with no signs of life anywhere. Their first stop was the main building, where they hoped to find the evidence room. They split up and went their separate ways, each taking a different hallway. Jack found himself in a dimly lit corridor, lined with doors on either side. He tried a few doors, but they were all locked. As he was about to give up, he heard a faint buzzing sound coming from behind one of the doors. He pressed his ear to the door and listened intently. It sounded like some kind of machinery. He tried the handle, and to his surprise, it turned. The door swung open, revealing a small room filled with computer monitors and blinking lights. Jack hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should explore further. He knew that the consequences of getting caught could be severe, but his curiosity got the best of him. He stepped inside and started examining the monitors. As he looked closer, he realized that the screens were displaying live footage from around the base. He could see guards patrolling the perimeter, scientists in lab coats working on unknown experiments, and even what looked like some kind of alien autopsy being performed. His heart raced as he realized the implications of what he was seeing. This was proof that the government was hiding evidence of extraterrestrial life. He quickly took out his phone and snapped some photos of the screens, hoping to capture as much evidence as he could. As he was about to leave the room, he heard footsteps coming down the hallway. He panicked, realizing that he had been caught. He quickly ducked behind one of the monitors and held his breath, waiting for whoever was coming to pass by. The footsteps grew closer, and Jack could hear someone muttering under their breath. He peeked around the monitor and saw a man in a lab coat walking down the hallway. The man didn't seem to notice him, and continued on his way. Jack waited for a few more minutes, making sure the coast was clear, before making his way back out into the hallway. He quickly made his way back to the main building, eager to share his discovery with Rachel and Sam. As he walked into the main room, he saw Rachel and Sam huddled over a large document. They looked up as he approached, and he could see the excitement in their eyes. "Guys, you won't believe what I just found," he said, holding up his phone. Rachel and Sam leaned in, eager to see what he had discovered. As they looked at the photos on his phone, their faces grew pale with shock. "This changes everything," Rachel said quietly. "We have to get out of here and share this with the world." The trio quickly realized that they needed to get out of Area 51 as soon as possible. They had uncovered concrete evidence of extraterrestrial life being hidden by the government, and they knew that if they were caught, they would be silenced. As they made their way back to the entrance, they heard alarms blaring and the sound of boots running towards them. They knew that they had been discovered, and their escape plan was compromised. They darted down a nearby hallway, looking for a place to hide. Rachel spotted a door on the left, marked supply closet. She pushed it open, and the three of them squeezed inside, shutting the door behind them. It was pitch black inside the closet, and they could barely see each other. They held their breath, listening as the sound of footsteps grew louder and louder. Suddenly, the door to the closet was thrown open, and a bright light flooded in. The trio shielded their eyes, trying to adjust to the sudden brightness. They could see the silhouette of a guard standing in the doorway, holding a flashlight. "Come out with your hands up," the guard shouted. "We have you surrounded." The three of them huddled together, paralyzed with fear. They knew that their discovery had led them to this moment, and they had to make a choice. Stay and be captured, or try to fight their way out. Suddenly, Jack lunged forward, grabbing the guard's flashlight and smashing it against the wall. The guard stumbled backwards, and Jack tackled him to the ground. Sam and Rachel jumped in to help, kicking and punching at the guard. They managed to overpower him and tie him up with some duct tape they found in the supply closet. They knew that they had to move quickly, as more guards would be on their way soon. They made their way through the base, trying to avoid any guards they came across. They knew that they had to get to the perimeter fence and make a run for it. As they ran, they could hear the sound of alarms and the shouts of guards growing louder behind them. They could see the fence in the distance, and they pushed themselves harder, hoping to make it in time. Just as they reached the fence, a group of guards appeared in front of them, blocking their way. They were surrounded, and they knew that they had been caught. Suddenly, they heard a strange noise in the distance. It sounded like a high-pitched whine, growing louder and louder. The guards looked around in confusion, trying to figure out what was happening. As the noise grew louder, a bright light appeared in the sky above them. It was like nothing any of them had ever seen before. The light engulfed them, and they felt themselves being lifted off the ground. They were floating, weightless, as they were carried up towards the light. They could see the base below them, growing smaller and smaller. They knew that they were being taken by the extraterrestrial life that they had discovered. As they were lifted into the ship, they knew that they were the first humans to ever make contact with another intelligent life form. They had uncovered the secrets of Area 51, and it had led them to an encounter that would change their lives forever. The trio found themselves in a strange room, surrounded by alien technology and beings that they could barely comprehend. They were strapped to metal tables, unable to move, as they were subjected to a series of experiments. The aliens seemed to be fascinated by the human body, taking samples of their blood, skin, and organs. They were poked and prodded, and the pain was unbearable. As the hours passed, they started to lose track of time. They were exhausted, hungry, and in constant pain. They didn't know how much longer they could hold on. Eventually, the aliens seemed to lose interest in them. They were left alone in the room, still strapped to the tables. They tried to talk to each other, but their voices were hoarse from screaming. Suddenly, the door to the room opened, and a group of humans walked in. They were wearing white lab coats, and they looked like scientists. The trio felt a glimmer of hope that they might be saved. "Hello," one of the scientists said. "My name is Dr. Wilson. We've been looking for you." The trio tried to speak, but their throats were too dry. They could barely nod their heads. "We know that you've uncovered some sensitive information about the government's involvement with extraterrestrial life," Dr. Wilson continued. "We need to keep you safe." The trio looked at each other in confusion. They had no idea who these people were, or why they would want to help them. "We're a group of scientists who have been studying the aliens for years," Dr. Wilson explained. "We've been trying to find a way to communicate with them, but we've been unsuccessful. We believe that you might be the key to understanding their language." The trio looked at each other, still not sure what to make of this. They were exhausted and in pain, and the last thing they wanted to do was help the people who had put them in this situation. But they also knew that they needed to get out of there. They nodded their heads, agreeing to help the scientists. Over the next few days, the trio worked with the scientists, trying to decipher the language of the aliens. They pored over data and recordings, trying to find patterns and clues. At first, progress was slow. But as they worked, they started to notice patterns in the way the aliens communicated. They discovered that the aliens used a combination of telepathy and sound to communicate, and they were able to start decoding the messages. As they worked, they started to form a strange bond with the aliens. They realized that the aliens were not just mindless beings, but intelligent creatures with their own culture and language. Eventually, they were able to communicate with the aliens directly. They learned that the aliens had been studying humans for years, trying to understand our culture and behavior. They also learned that the government had been hiding the existence of the aliens from the public for decades. The aliens had been trying to make contact with humans for years, but the government had been blocking their attempts. The trio realized that their discovery had led them to something much bigger than they had ever imagined. They had uncovered a government conspiracy that had been hidden from the public for years. But they had also made contact with an intelligent life form, something that had never been done before. They knew that their lives would never be the same again. The trio worked with the scientists for several more weeks, making progress in their communication with the aliens. But they knew that they couldn't stay there forever. They needed to escape. Dr. Wilson had promised to help them get out of the base, but they knew that it wouldn't be easy. The base was heavily guarded, and there were cameras everywhere. They spent days planning their escape, studying the guard schedules and mapping out the layout of the base. They knew that they had to be careful and avoid any confrontation with the guards. Finally, they had a plan. They would sneak out during the night, using the underground tunnels that connected the different buildings in the base. The night of the escape, they waited until the guards had finished their rounds and were settling in for the night. They made their way through the tunnels, moving as quietly as possible. They had almost made it to the exit when they heard footsteps approaching. They froze, unsure of what to do. But then they saw Dr. Wilson coming towards them, waving them forward. Quickly, he whispered, "The guards are distracted. You have to go now." The trio didn't waste any time. They rushed towards the exit, their hearts pounding in their chests. They burst through the door and found themselves in the open air for the first time in weeks. But their freedom was short-lived. As soon as they stepped outside, they were surrounded by a group of armed soldiers. They had been caught. Dr. Wilson stepped forward, trying to reason with the soldiers. But it was no use. They were taken back into the base, and this time they were thrown into a dark cell. Days passed, and the trio started to lose hope. They had been caught, and there seemed to be no way out. They were beginning to accept their fate. But then, something unexpected happened. The aliens came to their rescue. They appeared in the cell, using their telepathic powers to communicate with the trio. They told them that they had been monitoring their progress and were impressed by their ability to decode their language. "We have a proposition for you," the alien leader said. "We can help you escape, but you have to help us in return." The trio didn't hesitate. They agreed to help the aliens in any way they could. The aliens told them that they needed their help to communicate with the human leaders and establish peaceful relations between the two species. Over the next few days, the aliens and the trio worked together to formulate a plan. They decided that the trio would be taken to a meeting with the government officials, and they would use their newfound ability to communicate with the aliens to negotiate a peace treaty. The day of the meeting arrived, and the trio was taken to a secure location where they met with government officials. They used their telepathic abilities to communicate with the aliens, relaying their messages to the officials. The negotiations were tense, but ultimately successful. The government agreed to establish peaceful relations with the aliens and share their technology with them. The trio was hailed as heroes, their actions credited with bringing about a new era of peace and understanding between humans and extraterrestrial life. As for the aliens, they returned to their home planet, happy to have made contact with another intelligent species. But they left behind a legacy, a message of hope and cooperation that would inspire future generations to reach out to the stars and explore the unknown. After their harrowing experience at Area 51, the trio struggled to adjust to normal life. They had seen things that they never could have imagined, and their worldview had been forever changed. They had become celebrities overnight, appearing on talk shows and news programs to discuss their experiences. People were fascinated by their story, and they were hailed as heroes by many. But the trio couldn't shake the feeling that they had been changed in ways that they couldn't fully comprehend. They had made contact with extraterrestrial life, and they had been a part of a historic moment in human history. As they tried to come to terms with what they had experienced, they found themselves plagued by nightmares and flashbacks. They struggled to sleep, haunted by the memories of their time in the base. But they also found themselves drawn to the world of conspiracy theories once again. They had uncovered proof of extraterrestrial life, but they knew that there was so much more out there that was being hidden from the public. They continued to research and investigate, hoping to uncover more secrets that the government was hiding. But they were also more cautious now, knowing the dangers of getting too close to the truth. Despite their newfound fame and success, the trio couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. They had seen the dark underbelly of the world, and they knew that there were powerful forces at play that could crush anyone who dared to get in their way. But they also knew that they couldn't turn their backs on the truth. They had a responsibility to uncover the secrets that were being hidden from the public, no matter the cost. As they continued to delve deeper into the world of conspiracy theories, they found themselves uncovering more and more disturbing truths. They uncovered evidence of government cover-ups, secret experiments, and hidden agendas. But they also found hope in the people who were fighting back against the system. They discovered a network of like-minded individuals who were working to expose the truth and bring about change. The trio threw themselves into this movement, using their newfound fame and knowledge to help further the cause. They became activists, using their platform to raise awareness and fight against the powers that be. Their journey had started with a quest to uncover proof of extraterrestrial life, but it had become so much more. They had become warriors for truth, fighting against the darkness that threatened to consume the world. In the end, they knew that their journey was far from over. There were still mysteries to uncover, still secrets to expose. But they were no longer alone in their fight. They had found a community, a family of like-minded individuals who were willing to stand with them in the face of adversity. And so they continued on their journey, fighting for truth and justice in a world that desperately needed it. They had been changed by their experience, but they had also been given a purpose. And they would stop at nothing to see that purpose fulfilled.